This conference will now be recorded.
Well, hello and welcome to Coffee with Dr. Carla. And I'm Dr. Carla, and I'm so glad that you're here with me on this very cold morning. Today, my goal is to talk about some mental health related issues and hopefully start to end the stigma around them. And as we continue to celebrate Mental Health Awareness Month, today I want to talk to you about helpful versus harmful ways to manage those really strong emotions. And the article that they provide for this is really interesting. I like the way they broke it up. But I do have one thing that I'm taking exception to. So they're talking about the idea of, like with managing emotions, they're talking about negative emotions. And I know there's lots of places, lots of research that shows uh, negative emotions versus positive emotions. And that's not my favorite way of dividing things up. I prefer comfortable and uncomfortable. And those lists may end up looking very similar, but they also may shift a bit. So, for instance, um, fear is being listed as a negative emotion. Um, and it's definitely not an emotion we want to experience on a regular basis. So I understand that. Um, but when I hear a negative emotion or a negative anything, then I think, oh, I don't want that, which of course we don't. But sometimes fear is protective. Sometimes when we feel afraid, all of a sudden we stop and take a look at the world around us or what's happening near us, and it's a warning sign, right? So in that case, it's a positive emotion. It's helping us, right? And so that's one of the biggest reasons why I prefer to talk about comfortable and uncomfortable emotions. With that said, typically people would say, well, happy or joy is a positive emotion, right? With the assumption that that would be a comfortable thing to feel. But is it? Is it always, right? I have many clients who have a diagnosis of bipolar. And when they start to feel happy, they become very anxious because they start to worry that they're going into a manic phase. And so they have a really hard time experiencing joy or experiencing happiness. And so for them, happiness, joy is a very uncomfortable emotion. So that's the beginning part of this. So strong emotions, how are we managing them, right? Um, the concept of strong is that kind of comes up and feels like it takes over, right? And so then, after we figured out how to label them, then we have to figure out how to manage them, right? And so this is where this article really does a great job. So obviously, there's some very helpful ways to do that, right? You can talk to a friend. You can take a time out. You can do some breathing exercises. And we'll talk more about that when we talk about uh, a coping toolbox. But today, I want to talk about those um, things that we tend to do, or there's a tendency to lean into those or to turn towards those when those really strong emotions come on us and they're very uncomfortable. So the first one is denial. I'm fine. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not angry. Why do you think I'm angry? Maybe you're the one who's angry, right? So denial, not refusing to even acknowledge that we're feeling whatever it is that we're feeling. Right? Not a good way to manage anything if you're not even acknowledging what's happening. Um, the next one is withdrawal, right? I think there's a time to withdraw and to isolate and to kind of, burrow into your little cocoon and take care of yourself. But there comes a point where then it's too much, right? So maybe you're having a particularly bad day. There's lots of things going on, feeling lots of strong emotions, and you're like, I'm calling it a night. It's 7 o'clock at night, but I'm going to bed. I'm going to curl up in my bed, get all comfy, and I'm going to bed. Right? So withdrawing. That's to me, that's can be a very healthy way to manage life. Now, if that same scenario plays out and I go to bed at 7 o'clock and I curl up in my bed and I sleep all night long, and the next morning when I'm supposed to get up to go to work, I'm like, I'm not going. I can't get out of bed, right? And so then I stay in bed again and again and again, right? Then that withdrawal that was a way to cope, a way to, kind of soothe yourself, suddenly becomes a problem, right? So there's a balance. How much is too much? And I think that strongly depends on your personality. If you're an introvert, your tendency is to be alone more, right? To not be up and about with crowds of people or be super social, right? So if you compare an introvert on a good day, to an extrovert on a bad day, it might not look very different. That extrovert that needs all of that social interaction, right? So I think it depends on your personality as to how much is too much when it comes to withdrawal and isolation. The next one is aggression. Sometimes when we're feeling these really strong emotions, we don't know what to do with them. And so then we start taking it out on other people, screaming, yelling, throwing things, when things get, too much, then we're just like, ah, right? And we're just raging or road rage, right? And again, that's not to say you can't be angry, but what do you do with that anger, right? Is the issue, right? When you have all this aggression pent up, what are you going to do with it? So a healthier way would be to, I don't know, put on some boxing gloves and beat up a boxing bag, right? Go for a run, go work in the garden, do some hard, physical manual labor. But hitting, punching, yelling, screaming, throwing, those things aren't going to get us anywhere. In fact, it's going to make the situation that much worse. Then we get into self-harm. And I know a lot of people don't want to talk about self-harm. If we talk about it, then they're going to want to do it. Nope. If they were thinking about it, they were thinking about it. They're not waiting for us to suggest it. And so self-harm can come in a myriad of forms. Self-harm could be choosing not to actually take care of yourself, right? It could be something simple like that. It also could be cutting, right? And with cutting, it's more about feeling the physical pain, not about actually trying to kill yourself. I've seen where people have taken plastic combs and just repeatedly, rubbed it on their arm until it's raw. I've seen unfortunately middle school kids take erasers on pencils and just keep erasing their skin until it's raw, right? So self-harm can come in all sorts of different ways. Self-harm could also be just excessiveness of things that don't help you, right? So there's that. And then, of course, unfortunately, self-harm can go to the place where somebody feels like the only option is to end their life. And so they start to think, oh, the world will be better off if I'm not here. Nobody really cares that I'm alive. And let me just stop you right here. If you're one of those people, the world does care that you're alive, And if you ever need someone to talk to, no matter what time of day or night, call 988. That suicide hotline is phenomenal. It's available 24/7. The people who are on the other end are great. So you're never really alone. So 988. And then the last is substance use. And so, is there anything wrong with having a glass of wine to unwind? No. But is it a bottle of wine? Is it a bottle of wine every night? Are you going to bed drunk? Right? If the only way you think you can go to sleep is if you, drink yourself into a stupor, or, maybe it's not alcohol. Maybe it's cocaine. Um, I'm doing the cocaine during the day so that I can be up and doing what I need to do. But then when the night comes, I crash and I can't function, right? Drugs and alcohol are the obvious substance use issues, but we are addicted to all sorts of different things. So I know I had shared previously about my sugar addiction. So if I'm managing my emotions in harmful ways, I would want to go and have a large bag of candy or a bunch of cookies or whatever. And you're thinking that's not the same as cocaine. Well, the problem is in my brain, the way it lights up under MRIs, which we've got proof of, it is exactly the same thing, right? And so the idea is any substance that causes us harm and we continue to use despite the fact that we know it harms us, that's where that comes in. So take a look at how you manage things. Take a look at how you manage your emotions, right? And if you're doing any of these, more harmful things to manage your emotions, then it might be a good idea to reach out for some help so that you can figure out healthier ways to manage. So remember, you could change your thoughts, discover your potential, and transform your life by focusing on your overall well-being. So until next time, keep continuing to work on being the best you possible. Bye.